Oh, there you are, YouTube. So we do have a ranking for you today, but it is not a random ranking like we typically do. Instead, the movies that we will be ranking are a select group of movies. That's right, the movies that the Academy deemed the greatest of 2022. These are the movies that are nominated for Best Picture. Tomorrow we will find out which movies, or excuse me, which movie the Academy chose as the greatest of 2022, and we are going to basically go through the same process that they do when picking the best film of the year. We are going to do a preferential ballot basically for Best Picture. And basically what that means is they don't just pick one movie to, like, their favorite to be Best Picture. Instead, they rank the movies. And that's how movies that may not get the most number one votes win, because you have a lot of support in for maybe a single film that hits like the 2 and 3 section. That's kind of where you get a lot of these harmless wins, these softer films that win, and the divisive films don't quite make it in, even if there is a strong, passionate vote. But anyway, what we are going to do, we are going to rank these movies. Right now, they are just in alphabetical order, and what we have here is All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar, The Way of Water, Avatar 2, The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fablemans, Tar, Top Gun Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, and Women Talking. And I am going to put these in the order in which I would like to see them win Best Picture. This isn't necessarily how I would rank them based on whether or not I think they are the best or whether or not they are my favorite. My mindset is, what is the best picture for the Academy to choose when they are saying best? What does that mean? What does it mean in the cultural moment? What does that mean, etc., etc., etc.? Not just what I think is the best. Like, what would be the best for that that best picture win, and what does that mean exactly? Because probably my favorite movie out of all of these, I do not think should win Best Picture, and I'll get into that. Okay, so I should get into that now, actually. I think, for me, when ranking these, I have 3 that I think should not be Best Picture winners at all. And we're going to set Women Talking over here, and we're going to move All Quiet on the Western Front down to the very bottom. Why? Why, Derek? You like that movie? You think that movie's pretty good? And it's like, yeah, I do think it's good, but it already won back in the 30s, and I really am against the idea of a movie that has already won. I don't want its remake to win unless there are some massive changes to it. So, All Quiet on the Western Front won back in the 30s, and I don't think we need it necessarily winning again. Great makeup in this movie, great cinematography, some of the best cinematography I saw out of all of these. But I just don't think it should win. So, because we already have one. So that's why it's going to go at the bottom, right? That's why that's going there. Next, we have, I'm going to say, so that's at the very bottom. We're keeping that there. Now, I'm going to say Avatar. Why? Because it's a part 2. I'm not necessarily against movies within a franchise winning, because I think Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring is Return of the King is a great win. But that movie felt like the conclusion of a single larger film, and I don't get that here. This feels like a completely separate movie from the first Avatar, and I think we have, like, what, 4 more of them coming out? Who wants Avatar 2 to be the Best Picture winner? That just doesn't sound right with me. That doesn't sit right with me. I'm just going to gatekeep this one here because it already won. Gatekeep this one. It should not win. because it's part 2 out of 6 or 5, however many he's going to make. So even though I like this one, I had the strongest emotional response to this movie. Out of all of these, I had the strongest emotional response to this one. I was in the theater weeping at the end, but I can't let it win. Next, probably my favorite out of all of these is Top Gun Maverick. I thought it was the most fun. It was the most exciting. Do I think it's the best? No. It's very much a rehashing of the original. It's very, very similar. I mean, a lot of people were comparing it to Star Wars. I get that. But for me, the reason why this can't win is, again, sort of the franchise thing. It doesn't feel like necessarily a conclusion of a single story, which is what Return of the King feels like. Or it's not the beginning of a story, because I'm also cool with that. Think of The Godfather. I love that The Godfather won. I don't like that The Godfather 2 didn't win. Had Godfather 3 won, then I would have been fine with all 3 of those winning because they're all there. I'm always thinking about completionists going back and watching all of the Best Picture winners, and I don't like the idea that a part 2 could win because they didn't have to watch part 1. I don't like, again, part 2 didn't win. But part 3, Lord of the Rings again, that's the conclusion, and I feel like it represents the entire franchise rather than here, this kind of is its own thing. Same thing here. This is like its own movie. It's not a representative of the entire franchise. But I think a first movie could, because the first Avatar, I think that should have won, and then I would have been cool with none of the other ones winning. If it's just the first one, I'm cool with that, so long as it's not an enormous setup for a sequel or a franchise or something like that. So Avatar won. Yeah, I'm totally cool with that winning. I think it should have won over The Hurt Locker, and then Top Gun, I can't do it because it doesn't feel like with part 1 that it's a full story. Does that all make sense where we're going with that? So those 3 are the easiest ones for me to rank because I absolutely do not think they should be Best Picture winners, even though quality film, some of the best cinematography I saw, great makeup, most emotional response, crying, tears flowing in the theater. Nope. Doesn't deserve it for me. And then Top Gun, the most fun I had in the theater, and probably the one I would return to first. I can't let it win. So, what is next? Let's move some of these up, because I think it makes the most sense to work from the bottom going up. Let me give you a little break while I do this. Okay, I'm back. We've arranged these here. So now that we've got them all up here, now basically we're going to find what is in the 4th spot, 4th from the bottom. So let's see. Absolutely not, absolutely not, absolutely not. And you know what? I think the next one actually is Tar. Serendipitously, this title was already here, but I'm going to go with Tar. I just felt like it was a chore to watch. And I guess hot take, I love Cate Blanchett so much. I like one of my favorite actresses, probably. She's one of the few people that I've tried to, see every single film in their filmography. But this one, I thought she was good through most of it. Mostly like towards the end and the middle, but at the beginning during that interview scene, and I think I've tried to explain it away, but she almost feels a little too ready to answer those questions. And maybe that works a little bit for the character to be so prepared, but it didn't feel necessarily like someone who was prepared for an interview where they don't know the questions they're going to get. It felt like somebody who was prepared to say lines. And, again, maybe that does fall in line with the character, but it didn't quite work for me. The rest of the movie, her acting definitely did. I thought it was fantastic. But that moment I was like, what? I don't know. I was like, what's Michelle Yeoh going to be like? Because I don't know. Right now, I feel like this was before I saw Everything Everywhere. I was like, I think Michelle Yeoh should definitely win after seeing that. So yeah, I'm going to put Tar at the bottom. Also, it felt very long. Not that that's no. Sometimes I think when it feels long, it can be a problem, and this one felt long. So I'm going to put this one down here. Now, what is above tar? What did I like here? I think, so we're going to have to move some. I'm going to take some of these off. And I think what we're going to go with here is maybe women talking. I'm going to put women talking here. And mostly, you know, I was engaged the entire time. I thought it was, you know, captivating, all of that. But it still very much felt like a play. So here I'm thinking about, what does Best Picture mean? Thinking about cinema, pushing things forward. You know, again, when I talk about the original Avatar, I think that should have won just because of everything it did to push the medium forward. I think sometimes that is what best means. And Women Talking to me felt very much like a play. Is it based on a play? I don't know. I don't think so. But it didn't feel cinematic. There were some nice shots here and there, but everything felt just a little too play-like for me. But it's weird because that's not always a negative for me, but I don't know, in this case, for some reason, it did feel that way, and I think I also have to say that about the next movie I'm going to put down here, The Banshees of Inisherin. It just had that play quality to it, but this one I found more humor in, and it was a little easier to watch. This one is, you know, very serious and just kind of, you know, it's not easy to revisit, where I feel like this one might be a little bit easier to revisit because of the humor within it. Although this one does have some great humor with two horses. I loved every time this one woman was talking about these horses. It was so great. The way she would bring them up and everybody was tired of hearing about them. It was great. So yeah, I think I'm going to put Banshees of Inisherin here. Is that right? Yeah, is that what I want? See, I'm doing this in real time. The only things I was for sure about were these were going to be at the bottom. I don't think I knew what order, but I knew they were going to be at the bottom. And then probably tar too. I knew these four. And then up here, I don't know what I'm doing. So, because now I'm wondering, okay, no, we're going to keep this here. We're going to keep Banshees here. What I was thinking was maybe Elvis should be below Banshees. But I think what I'm going to do is put Elvis right above Banshees. Banshees of Inisherin, and then Elvis. Let me make some room for myself here. The reason I'm going to put Elvis so low, or maybe so high, or whatever, the reason I'm putting it so... I'm going to start with so high. Why is it so high? I know a lot of people didn't like this movie. The reason it's so high is because... No, maybe I should talk about why it's so low. Okay, I'm going to talk about why it's so low. So for me, when I'm thinking about Best Pictures, Best Picture winner, I do not like biopics as Best Picture winners. Because years down the road, now Elvis may be an exception, but years down the road, we usually don't know who those people are. Who's Emile Zola? Do you know Emile Zola? Who's Emile Zola? I mean, some people may, but not the average person. I go walk down the street, tell me who Emile Zola is. People don't know. So the life of Emile Zola as a Best Picture winner does not make sense to me. But you could say placing it as Best Picture gives people a chance to learn about who Emile Zola was, and then it's like, okay, I guess. But think about, like, Aaron Brockovich. That was nominated for Best Picture. Let's say Aaron Brockovich won Best Picture. That's just the person. I mean, you know, did good things and everything, but still, that's just like a person out in the... Why isn't there a Best Picture with my name? You know, that sort of thing. So, yeah, that's why I'm usually not a fan of Best Picture winners being biopics. However, The Queen, I loved the movie The Queen, and had that won, I would have been fine with it. You know, I like that movie a lot. But that's just kind of a personal preference thing. Do I think it should win as like a Best Picture? You know, I can see some issues with that. And plus, here's another thing I don't like. The Queen, that movie, is called The Queen, but it's not about her entire life. It's just a small period, maybe one of the most defining periods, not the most, but one of the most defining periods while she was head of the monarchy. But The Queen, I think, a greatest hits movie, every part of her life, because she is the Queen. I think it needed a more poetic title. Elvis needs a more poetic title. Actually, if this had a more poetic title and it wasn't just called Elvis, I'd be more willing to raise it up a bit. But it's just called Elvis, and I don't like that. But again, you walk down the street, you ask somebody who's Elvis, they're gonna know. So he may be an exception. So that's probably why it's a little bit higher. Also, it's not a traditional biopic. It is incredibly odd. It's incredibly exciting. It's a giant spectacle. It's frenetic. It moves all around. It's bright. It's glitzy. It's glittery. It has that Baz Luhrmann style. And I think that's why it works and that's why it's interesting to me. Not to say I don't like traditional biopics because, well, I can't think of any right now. Because I was going to say The Queen, but is that really a biopic? It's just a moment. Let's call it a biopic. Okay, I do love that one, right? And it's more traditional. It's not her whole life. It's just, a period of time. But I like when they are extremely stylized. Like Jackie, that one was good. It was very stylized. I loved that. It was haunting. That one was good. Ray, I didn't think was very good. I watched that recently. It was just very traditional biopic. Elvis, because it doesn't feel like a biopic, it's so incorrect when it comes to accuracy. I like that. There's artistic liberty. It feels like a work of art, not a dramatization. There you go. I think that's what I wanted to say. It's a work of art. It's not a dramatization, and that's why it's kind of high. Next, we have... all right. I think... all right, we got Triangle of Sadness. We got Everything Everywhere All at Once, and The Fablemans. How are we going to do this? So, I think what I'm going to have to do is put The Fablemans. I think The Fablemans are next. They are above Elvis. So this is Steven Spielberg's movie, and it's about his life, right? So, but he's not using the names. Everything's, a little bit different, but it is basically his life. An artistic look at his life, but I guess falls in line quite a bit with his life as well. As I was watching it, I was like, that's a cute movie. I really like that. That's nice. But didn't think it rose above in any way. It is interesting that a director is, making a movie about his own life so specifically. I was at a Q&A with Oliver Stone. He said he plans on doing something like that too, down the road. But, I don't know. I think these things can be interesting, but is it a best picture sort of thing? It's cool that one of our greatest directors, Steven Spielberg, this is a way to where we can sort of, in some fashion, metaphorical fashion, historical fashion, see every single movie that he's ever made by just watching The Fablemans. They're all connected. You find all the themes that he's had in the past, where they come from, the root of it all. It's all right here. So that's pretty interesting. But, we have a lot of great directors. Why is it Spielberg? That sort of thing. Maybe it's his ability to cross over to more prestige film versus more mainstream, but while somewhat remaining mainstream because of his name, no matter what he's making. He hasn't made, incredibly artsy art films, but I feel like he could. So anyway, Fablemans is here. Why is it so high? Because for a while it seemed kind of more in this area, but the ending of it, when young Fableman meets John Ford, that part to me was absolutely fantastic. That, like, days after, I was thinking about that part and how great David Lynch was. I think David Lynch should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor for that because he brought the movie home for me. He made me think, you know what, I do like this movie. It was like, yeah, this is nice, it's cute, but then at the end I was like, I like this. Maybe I love it. Days later I was thinking, maybe I love it. So really David Lynch saved the movie. That moment at the very end, those who saw it know what I'm talking about. That part just like left me with the biggest smile. Made me so happy and full of joy seeing that. And I just thought that was cool. And that is enough for me to put Fablemans at number 3. Also, Steven Spielberg's my favorite director. He made my favorite movie. My favorite movie is Hook. Right there. That's the crocodile. And my favorite director is Steven Spielberg. So, for that reason. And there's a lot of Hook in this movie. There's a lot of Hook in this movie. So, you know, again, another reason why I love it. So now we're between Triangle of Sadness and Everything Everywhere All at Once. Oh my goodness. Everything okay? I think I knocked that a little bit. Okay. So what are we going to do? You know, before starting this, I thought Everything Everywhere was going to be number 1. But I actually think I'm going to go with... I might go with Triangle of Sadness. This is tough. I'm feeling this in this moment. I'm feeling this in this moment. Because I did think Everything Everywhere. Here's the reason. Okay, Everything Everywhere All at Once would be the first science fiction film to ever win if you don't count The Shape of Water as science fiction. If you count that movie as more fantasy, this would be the first science fiction... this would be the first science fiction film to win. So, that's cool, that's awesome. But then when I think about the history of science fiction, the history of it, science fiction films, there's stuff like Alien, didn't win Best Picture. There's stuff like the first Avatar, didn't win Best Picture. District 9 didn't win Best Picture. 2001, E.T., Close Encounters. There are more that I'm not thinking of right now. Did I say Alien? Alien. Aliens. All sorts. The Matrix. The Matrix. I mean, that one. 99, a lot of great movies, but The Matrix would have been an epic win. I'm just trying to think of like science fiction films. Star Wars. Star Wars. Annie Hall beat it. Those movies that have just become so deep into the culture, deeply ingrained. I don't even know if District 9 has done that, so we can take that one out. Those movies feel like they belong in the pantheon, the Best Picture pantheon. This one did break through, though. So now I'm wondering, like, it's still early. Maybe a Best Picture win will put it in that pantheon. But here's the thing, multiverse, we've seen that with Spider-Man No Way Home. We've seen the multiverse in Multiverse of Madness. You know, it's not a new concept. It's happening in the DC movies right now. It's kind of the zeitgeist in a way when it comes to storytelling. That's happening a lot. So maybe it should go number 1. Is Triangle of Sadness going to be number 2? I don't know. I'm convincing myself here in real time that maybe Everything Everywhere should be number 1. I was just thinking, does it hold a candle to those other science fiction films? Should Everything Everywhere All at Once be the first science fiction film to win? Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I mean, that maybe should have been the first science fiction film to ever win. Be nominated and win. That would have been, not to be nominated, wouldn't be the first nominated, but to win, had it been nominated, would have been amazing. But maybe that is what this needs. Let's say this movie gets Best Picture. Maybe it's not only in the Best Picture pantheon, but maybe the cultural pantheon. But I'm trying to think, like, its box office was a surprise. It did do very well, so maybe it is in that pantheon right now. Ooh, maybe it is. But here's the thing. Let me put Triangle back up. Let me talk about that. Should Triangle be number 1? Here's the thing with Triangle of Sadness. It felt very Yorgos to me. Yanthamos. I don't know how to say it. It felt like him. You know, like Dogtooth? You ever seen Dogtooth? I don't know. Just kind of made me think of Dogtooth, and, you know, I didn't really like The Lobster, but, you know, made me think of The Lobster a little bit. And another movie, this is the funny part, it reminded me of another movie I saw for this film festival that I was one of the judges on, juries, I don't know, whatever. Get the movie to the festival. Screeners, there we go. And I saw this movie called The Square when I was, you know, screening the different movies. And I was watching Triangle of Sadness. I was like, this reminds me of that movie that I saw where that man, like, acts like an ape and goes to some, like, high society dinner. This is what this movie reminds me of. And I didn't pay attention to directors or anything, and then I, like, looked the director up that made Triangle of Sadness, and it was the same guy. The same guy made The Square, which was the movie with the man acting like an ape all over people's dinner plates. So I don't know. That really doesn't have anything to do with anything. But there's a style here that I guess you could say this would be an auteur film, because I could just, there was an essence that felt recognizable that made me think I know this movie. But why Triangle of Sadness? Why would I want this movie to win Best Picture? It's so weird. It's so bizarre. When I was watching this, I was like, congratulations, Academy, for choosing something like this for Best Picture. You know, they'll do some weird ones every once in a while, but this one I was very surprised, because we are just, can I spoil some stuff? We're going to spoil some stuff with Triangle of Sadness. There's just like barfing, comedic, hilarious barfing everywhere, just like you see in comedy movies, except for it was maybe more grotesque here, because it looked real. It looked real as it was coming out of these people's bodies. And it was coming out of both ends. We were seeing food poisoning coming out of people's mouths and their back ends simultaneously, watching it flow out of mouths and butts. We were watching this out of mouths, out of butts. And I was just like, Academy, way to go to pick something like this. I am proud of you. This is great. You are doing some strange stuff here, and I like it. But I feel like its message, the movie's message, is a little heavy-handed. It's just like very obvious what it's trying to say. I think it's doing it in a cool way. It's basically, you know, if you've ever seen like Snowpiercer, it's that story. Just talking about the class divides and how they shift based on certain circumstances and things like that. Holding on to power, letting go of power, and where you are powerful, where you are not powerful, whether you are a contributing part of society or not, and what is society, you know, what is real, what actually matters, sort of thing. It's doing all of that, but it's doing it very heavy-handed. It's very obvious. You know what's going on. You're just kind of like, oh yeah, I know. But I like the way it's being done. That sort of thing. It's like, yeah, I get it. I know. Hammering this over my head. I know exactly what you're saying. But it's cool the way it's done. I love how gross and disgusting it is. And I just think it's really cool that they did that. So, and I just don't think, I don't know. I just like that. It's so odd and weird. And I don't know. Everything, everywhere at once. I think this is what my ballot would be. I think this is going to be my ballot, because I would just feel like I got to give major kudos for them picking something so grotesque right here. All the vomiting, all the dumping out of the butts, vomiting out of the mouths. All that was great. I couldn't believe it. I think it made my wife a little queasy watching it, and I'm sitting over there laughing, cracking up at what I'm seeing. So yeah, I think this is it. I think this is where I'm going. So again, this is not what I think is the best, or this is not what is my favorite. This is what I think should win Best Picture. And as I said here, this is just kind of like it's a movie I liked a lot. I thought was great. And I'm like, way to go, Academy, for picking something so strange. And that's kind of how I feel about this too. A science fiction movie, if a science fiction movie wins, that's awesome because they don't typically do that. That is very cool. Now I'm wondering if I should put it number one again. I don't think so because I like the gross out. I like the gross out here. Like, this is cool and everything. I love it. But I like the gross out stuff. Like, this is Garbage Pail Kids type vomit. You know, sliding back and forth in it just really, I don't know. It was something else. My favorite director, and I see all of his films in this. Elvis. I don't like biopics winning, but this feels like art. It doesn't feel like a depiction of a man's life. Banshees of Inisherin, great, funny, but a little too, a little too play like. Women talking, a little too play like, but I still like that there was a lot of great dialogue in it. I could see this winning script. Really good dialogue in this. The way the back and forth and everything was really good. Tar, I don't know. Wasn't for me, I guess. But I love Cate Blanchett, so if she wins, that's awesome. But I really think Michelle Yeoh knocked it out of the park, and I think she did a better job. I sound so mean because I love Cate Blanchett. I don't like to say that, but I would definitely vote for Michelle Yeoh. I feel like she, I don't know, brought more, I guess. I don't know. That sounds mean. I feel, I don't want to, I don't know. Maybe they should tie. They should tie. I don't know. They shouldn't, though, because what was going on during that interview scene just didn't quite work for me. But, and I guess the movie, I just didn't really care for it that much. But, I don't know. Maybe if it was like 30 minutes shorter. Top Gun Maverick, the most fun I had. Probably my favorite out of all of them. Easy to watch, that sort of thing. Spectacle, exciting. But it's a part two and doesn't feel like... doesn't feel one with the original. Feels like a sequel to the original. Ties to the original. Same thing here. Doesn't feel like it is one with the original. It feels like part two of a larger story. And then this one already won. All Quiet already won. Don't need it to win again. I thought it was good, but what is it pushing forward? Nothing, really. Old story. Lots of tropes that we know already within that genre. Really good makeup, though. And, well told, but well told story we've already seen before. In a lot of ways, not just All Quiet, but, all the movies that were inspired by All Quiet. Okay, this is my ranking. Actually, this is my preferential ballot. This is how I would fill out my preferential ballot. My ballot for the Oscars. This is what I would turn in. Okay? My ranking of these movies would be completely different. These two would probably be up top. So, does that make sense? This is my preferential ballot. If I had a ballot, if I was a part of the Academy, this is how I would go about choosing Best Picture. How would you go about choosing Best Picture? Give me that ranking. Maybe just give me your favorites. How are you ranking these? How would you vote? I want to know. Because I think about the history of Oscar. I think about what does Best Picture mean. All of these different things. Is this advancing the medium? I don't know. But maybe it's making gross out stuff. Vomit and dumping. I like highbrow or something. I don't know. That's why I'm putting it up there. I don't think really any of these like push the medium. Really. I don't know. I mean, he's always pushing his abilities. Tom Cruise, he should have been nominated. He's always pushing his abilities. So, yeah. I don't know. There's some great editing in Everything Everywhere. So maybe that's pushing some ideas. Triangle, again, I really liked it. I thought it was funny, and had some good things to say, even if it was extremely heavy-handed. But yeah, there we go. I don't know. Sometimes I keep thinking maybe I want to put this up top. Too bad I can't put them side by side. I don't know. I'm going to stick with Triangle Sadness just because I keep thinking of the barfing, and it's cracking me up. Anyway, and, uh, and, uh, I don't know. And I don't know, it makes me think of like how people can change based on their situation too. Thinking about the guy, the main character or whatever. Anyway, again, my preferential ballot. What would your preferential ballot look like for Best Picture? Are you looking forward to the Oscars? Are you going to be watching them? I know I am, and I'll probably give a little reaction and then an updated version of my title card video. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and perhaps I'll see you tomorrow for more Pure Hangout.